So now that you have watched part 1, 2, and 3 of workshop 1, you are pretty much ready to go. However, please take the time to listen to this video just so that you know exactly what to expect in terms of how your body is going to respond over the coming days, and that nothing takes you by surprise, and that you feel comfortable and confident if any symptoms do pop up. So what can you expect? The first thing is understanding exactly how your body is going to respond to all these changes that you make. I've made a resource to go through all of this, so please reference this resource alongside with this video, and that resource is called Expectations for Week 1 and 2. So basically, within a few days of commencing a low carbohydrate diet or when fasting, we very quickly drain our body's carbohydrate stores. We only have very limited stores for carbohydrate in the body, a few hundred grams in the muscle, a few hundred grams in the liver. So if you're not eating very much carbohydrate, well, it doesn't take a long time for your stores to be drained. And this is a good thing. However, up to this point in your life, you have used carbohydrate as your main fuel. That's how you've got your energy, from carbohydrate. And so now this fuel source is taken away. And what happens? Well, what happens is that your body freaks out a little bit. It basically takes about a 2 to 3 day period, depending on how much carbohydrate stores and how busy you are at the moment, how much fuel you are using. But over a 2 to 3 day period, we use all of those stores up. However, it takes longer for those insulin levels to come down. And so we're not quite adapted to or good enough yet at accessing and using our fat. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a little bit of this no man's land, where we don't really have a good source of energy or fuel that we can harness and use. And this is what we call the low carbohydrate or ketogenic flu. Now, everybody responds differently. Some people have a lot of symptoms, whereas other people don't feel it at all. So everything that I go through here, you may experience these symptoms or you may not. And either way, it is very normal. So there is some good that occurs straight away. And as you see on the expectation resource, when insulin begins to come down, one of the things that happens is that it impacts all the hormones related to our kidney function, and we actually start getting rid of any excess fluid that we have. And that can make us feel quite good, particularly in our gut. We might feel more comfortable in our gut with less bloating, and also any puffiness that we have maybe in our fingers, our hands, our feet, that disappears. And that can make us feel quite light and good straight away. However, as you see on the resource, there is some bad and there is some ugly that comes with this too. So the bad is, we're in this no man's land in terms of our fuel. We can't access fat and we don't have carbohydrate. And so we might just feel really flat, tired. We might get a headache. You might feel a little bit dizzy. You might feel a bit nauseous. These are all very normal symptoms. And the key is that you persevere, because there is a big bright light at the end of the tunnel. Often what happens is our cravings or our want for carbohydrate is significantly increased during this time. But it's important that we avoid the temptation to go back, because it will just take us back right to the start of this process. And so pushing through, sticking with my guidelines, having good, complete meals with plenty of protein and fat is going to be the key to moving forward. So what is the ugly? What are those symptoms that we could experience? Well, one of them is a bit of bad breath. Now, the reason this happens is because when we start making ketones, we're not very good at holding on to them because our body just doesn't know what to do with them. And so we tend to excrete the majority of the ketones we are making. And the way that we excrete them is through our breath. And you might taste these ketones in your mouth, and you might also suffer from a little bit of bad breath. Now, in time, this should improve. And what you can do if you do experience this, my 2 tips are to brush your teeth a little bit more regularly and also to make sure you are getting in plenty of fluid. The other thing that can happen is impact on our bowels. Now, some people go one way, other people go the other way. Some people become quite constipated and others have very loose diarrhea. So in both cases, fat can be involved. If we are not having enough fat, we tend to go towards the constipation side. If you are having too much too soon, you might have diarrhea. So if you're suffering from diarrhea, you might want to pull back on the fat slightly and just bring it back in slowly over the coming weeks. But if you are constipated, not only are we thinking about fat, we do want to up the fat slightly, but fluid and salt become a really key component to helping move things through. Another thing you could try for both ends of the spectrum here is psyllium husk, which you can just get in the supermarket. My suggestion would be to start off with a really small amount to see how you respond. So maybe just 1 teaspoon into a really big glass of water first thing in the morning, and that can help move things through you, and it can also slow things down. So no matter which side of the spectrum you're on, psyllium husk can be of help. The final point really relates to exercise. And if you are exercising and you're suffering from the low carbohydrate flu, you might feel like you just can't go as hard as usual. You can't reach those high intensities. If you usually run, you might need to have a few little walk breaks in it. It's just about going with the flow during this period. It's not going to last. It's just a short adaptation phase so that you can get through to the other side, start burning fat, and start feeling all the benefits of that. So hang in there. There is a big bright light, as I said before, at the other side of this, and you just need to keep pushing through. I will mention at this point that if the low carb flu symptoms tend to hang around for anything more than about 10 days, then generally it's no longer as a result of the low carbohydrate part of this, and tends to be more about your lack of fluid and electrolytes, or your lower levels of fluid and electrolytes. And so at that point, you would really need to hone in and make sure that you are drinking enough and also getting enough sodium. The final point in this workshop series is possibly one of the most important points, and this relates to planning and organization. Now, these 2 things are the absolute key to success when it comes to this way of eating and living. In order to be successful, it is essential that each and every week you take the time to plan. Put some time aside and begin by deciding, what meals you're going to have for the week. Once you've got what meals you're going to have, then put your shopping list together. Set time aside to go to the market or the supermarket, get some nice fresh produce, and then come home, and you might try and spend an hour or 2 just doing the odd few things that are going to help you set up your week better. It could be as simple as chopping veggies or making some seed crackers, making a low carb bread, whatever it might be that is going to help you have a more successful week. Unfortunately, when you're following this sort of approach, walking into a convenience store, well, there's nothing there that we can purchase that's going to fit underneath these guidelines. And therefore, in order to be successful in the long term, we need to plan, we need to be organized, we need to stay on top of things. And there is no, way around this, really. It's about finding how you're going to fit this into your life, and the longer you do it, the more it will become a habit and the easier it will get. So that is it. That covers everything to get you going, and I hope that you are ready to dive in head first and give this all a red hot go. I'll be here tomorrow to describe for you your very first challenge in this 6-week challenge, so be sure to look out for that next video. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.